Y'all know what time it is, man. We on another episode of Trill Talk No Cap.
What's good, homie?
What's good, fam? How you living? Hey, what's up, Miss Chinese Nikki? I'm trying to give the San Antonians a bigger idea of what we're talking about and how legendary this shit is.
Yo, what's good, man? Y'all already know what it is, you know what I'm saying? This is another great episode of Trill Talk No Cap, where all we do is talk trill, and the only capping that we do is the ones we wear on our heads. Now, today is a very, very, very special day. I'm gonna let you know why. Because most of you that tuned in right now, you already know who this lady is sitting next to me. But if you don't know, this right here is Miss Shelly Lares. You know what I'm saying? Shelly Lares. She's a legend. She's a legend. Now, for those that don't listen to Tejano music, if I was to compare her in the hip hop world, we're talking about the Mary Janes. We're talking about Whitney Houston. We're talking about that Mariah Carey. This is the status that this woman is on in the Tejano world. She's done groundbreaking things. You know what I'm saying? So it's a big honor for you to be on the show today. We appreciate you coming.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here and super excited. I love the vibe in here. I love the show. You already know I love everything you're about. So I mean, it's my honor to be here. And I just want to start off by saying thank you to you for going to my studio and talking to some of my aspiring artists and giving them words of encouragement. So
absolutely, and we're gonna get into that too. Yeah, we definitely want to talk about that. So you know what I'm saying. So let's start off real quick, Shelly. We're gonna go ahead and get started because there's so many things that we want to talk to you about today. You know what I mean? Let's start off with, you know what I'm saying, like, how did you get started? How did it all start for you? Tell us about the young Shelly.
I grew up in a very musical household. You know, my mom and dad are both musically inclined. I have two sisters and a brother. I'm the baby of four. My sisters, my brother, all musically inclined. My brother was really the only one that studied music, like could read music, and he was in band and marching band, jazz band. So my family, my household, we listened to all genres, like everything and anything from Spanish to country to R&B to mariachi. I mean, we listened to just about everything. Conjunto. And, you know, Tejano was more like what we would hear at family functions when we went to quinceañeras or weddings. You know, that's when we would kind of hear it. But, you know, growing up in a very musical household, so I knew very young that music was something that definitely inspired me. And my brother, you know, taught me to play piano, taught me to play guitar. I was the only sister he would let get on his drum set. He didn't let my sisters touch the drum set. So I would get on the drum set and play, and I mean, I listened to, my heroes were Olivia Newton-John, Linda Ronstadt, Pat Benatar, Dolly Parton. Those were my heroes, you know, at a very young age. But yeah, so musically, I was bit by so many genres, you know. It wasn't until, you know, I'd sing around the house, I'd carry a cassette player. Right. And I would carry cassettes and I would sing in front of my family and make them listen to me. Whoever was around, I would just be like, I'm gonna sing for you, and I would play the cassette and sing.
When did you first notice that you had a voice? You were like, oh.
It wasn't until I joined choir, I think, when my choir teacher was, you know, wow, you've got a really loud voice for being so small. Right. But I really didn't get introduced to Tejano, like, into the whole thick of it until 1982 when my sister got married. Okay. And they hired a Tejano band to play at the wedding. My sister wanted me to do a song, and so my dad called the manager and said, hey, my daughter's, I was 10 years old at this time. Right. My dad said, you know, we have a daughter, she sings, my daughter wants her to do a song with the band. So I learned an Olivia Newton-John song with the band. But I do remember walking into this band room, and the guys were older. I'm sure they weren't old, but when you're 10 years old, everybody's old to you.
Everybody's old,
They were probably in their 20s. And the minute I started singing, like, they all just kind of stopped. And they looked at my mom and dad, and by the end of the night, the manager called my father and asked him if I could do a whole different gig prior to my sister's wedding. And that's how I got introduced to it. And they asked if I could join the band. And probably like three months later, a 10-year-old, I stepped foot in the recording studio for the first time and recorded my first record, which was Spanish and English. Okay. Because I didn't speak Spanish. Yeah. I mean, I understood it, and I mean, my parents would speak to me in Spanish, and I'd answer back in English. Right. So, you know, my mom would just tell me, this is what you're singing about, this is what it means, and so I would understand, you know, but but I fell in love with the Tejano.
Was it a hard transition to try to, like, when you were trying to learn the language?
It was intimidating, you know, because I mean, if you don't speak the language, you know, but that's our Tejano culture, is that You know, we do. If you listen to Tejano radio, they're playing Spanish songs, but they're speaking in English.
Right.
That's just our culture. You know, that's who we are. I've had a lot of people talk down about that, but I'm like, that's our culture. That's who we are. You know, they feel like you're not being true to who you are. I'm like, this is who we are. This is our culture. So yeah, it's been a learning experience, and I learned eventually how to speak Spanish.
And it's crazy too because the genre that you're in, they take that very seriously. You know, you've seen it. You know, in the movie Selena, where their dad was.
I never saw the movie, so I can't tell you. I know what you're talking about.
So he was talking about how, like, you know, like how you if you grew up in America, you know what I'm saying? That
right.
You're not Mexican enough for the Mexicans.
Right.
You're not for the.
But that's what Tejano music is.
Yeah.
It's not only it's Mexican American. We're American music.
Right.
We are. So, you know, that's a lot of the misconception that people have about our genre.
Right.
And I will tell you this, Tejano music has been blending genres for decades.
Right.
That's why now where music industry is right now you can hear urban sounds in Nashville. And when I went there, they didn't want us there. They didn't want Latinos there at all.
Right.
So, you know, now, I mean, it's like we've been doing this forever.
Yeah.
Everybody's kind of caught up to me, to where Tejano music has. Because Tejano has blended, you know, like I said, from mariachi to jazz to country to rock to, I mean, you hear so many different influences when you really listen to Tejano music, you know, and to different artists. We all bring something different to the table in some way, shape, or form, individually.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, you know, so when you first started, like you said, when you first started and you was doing, you know, did you know automatically, because you say you grew up in a household with R&B, you grew up with a lot of different things. You knew off top, though, when you met those guys or whatever, that's the genre you wanted to step into.
Yeah.
Because I imagine you had to really scratch and knock, you know, to really get the genre in between.
Well, I like to say I was Tejano when Tejano wasn't really cool yet, because in 1982 there was only 7 women. There was only me and Selena. We were the youngest in age, so we were the same age. She was only 7 months older than me. All the other women, so we were the 2 of 7 women.
Right.
And so you would hear a woman on Tejano radio like once every 2 hours.
Right.
Like you would not hear us at all. So I really came into the genre on the women's side where we were not accepted.
Right.
Okay, we were not taken seriously. We were, you know, judged for
like
everything.
Women
women
or just like
just
Tejano
women
period.
in Tejano, period.
Oh, wow.
That's
Okay.
it. Yeah, it was very male dominated at this time in 1982. But I knew that I wanted to stay in Tejano because I started to quickly realize that it was a genre that was going to allow me to step outside of Spanish music and it be okay. You see what I mean? Like, I would perform with these guys. They didn't play any English music when I came in.
Right.
They only did some oldies, but I had them doing like Madonna, Michael Jackson, like we were doing those. I was bringing those songs, Love Come Down, like those kind of songs, like we were doing live.
Yeah.
You know, and so I got them doing English, they got me doing Spanish. So it was kind of, but I was like, I love Tejano. That's how I learned how to have so much respect for the greats,
right?
For all of the pioneers that came before me, the women and men before me,
right?
And that's why I have so much respect for the genre, because I feel like it was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that the groundwork was laid down for me to be able to have a 40-year career,
right?
You know, I mean, so. You know, I just fell in love with the genre, and again, I just could hear so many different influences, and. But early on, man, I knew I wanted to produce my own stuff, though.
Yeah,
I knew that
Oh,
because I was already writing music as a child.
So you knew you wanted to produce.
I knew it.
Well, you always knew it. So you knew you were going to. Eventually.
Yeah, I knew I was going to because I'm the type of person, like, I don't let nothing keep me down.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
because we talked about that in your studio too.
Yeah, I don't
where
let anything keep me down. I don't allow the opinion of others to affect me because I don't do things for other people's validation. I do it because this is a gift that God gave me, and I'm very serious in how I represent myself and my genre, and I am a reflection of my parents. So that is something that means a lot to me. I don't want to come off being a certain way, but I'm not a pushover either.
Right,
you know,
right.
I have been in this game for a long time, and I do understand how it works.
And you probably experienced that too, where they try to because
God,
you're a woman.
Many times, man. Whether it's a promoter, whether it's a producer,
it happens in
whether
hip-hop
it's someone you're opening up for. It's like, who does this dude think? You know, it's like, and it happens a lot. But you know, my father and my mom were they owned a business when I first started recording music at age 10. They did rubber stamp engraving. So I know how to do embroidery work and all of that stuff too, because I did it as a child.
Right.
But my father was a businessman, so he understood how to handle a business. Yeah. So when we decided to go full time at 17, when I got my first record contract, for them to say, okay, we're going to close up shop. This is how we made our living because we're going to go on the road with our daughter into something we knew nothing about.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that was a lot of...
They decided like right then and there, we're going to close up.
Yeah, because my then producer or first record label said that in order for me to be successful, I had to go full time. I couldn't do it just part time. It had to be full time. Yeah. And I was a junior in high school at this time, so... Yeah, but
we talked about that too in the studio. How your dad didn't play. There was a story you told when we was in the studio. You said
there's a lot of stories about my dad.
What was it? Tell us.
Well, he would carry his flashlight, his Delco flashlight around, like the big old flashlight.
Yeah.
Man, there was like hair and blood on that sucker. But no, my dad, he was very old school, Hispanic father, man of his word, very hardworking, and he just believed that when you say you're going to do something, you do it.
You gotta keep your word.
There's no two ways about that.
Absolutely.
And he's a man, like, you shake his hand, you look him in the eye, and
that's like a signed contract.
He gets your vibe. My dad was very intuitive when it came to people's vibes, and
right.
So yeah. But no, there was several times where where he took it upon himself, whether a drunk guy or whatever, getting a little too touchy-feely. I mean, there would come my dad, and the cops had to come a couple of times, but they understood why my dad was, was protecting me. And when we had our bus in early 90s, during what you call the glory days of Tejano at this time, they used to follow the bus. They would follow us to see where we're staying. And so it was always a routine where I would have to wait till the last, like we didn't see nobody.
Crazy fans. I had some stalkers.
And one time, I was in the room with my mom and dad, and we hear a knock at the door, and it's a guy, and he has his shirt open, and he's like, "Can Shelly sign my shirt, my chest?" Yeah. And my dad's like, "I'll sign it for you." My dad pulls out a knife, and the guy ran. I was like, "Oh, my dad wouldn't have done anything." But
he wanted to send the message across.
Yeah, he didn't play. My father didn't play, but. The business side is something I was always watching, because he would always tell me, I'm not always going to be here.
Right.
So you have to watch me. You have to see how I'm doing things on the business side. And I think that's definitely one of the reasons why I was able to do it for so long.
Right.
Because we did handle it as a business. My band members, they were my band members, but they were my employees as well.
Right. And so he instilled that in you to really be a stand-up person. And
and we don't always want to do that when we're young. We just want to think about doing the music. But I was always watching.
And you like to think that nobody, especially in this industry, especially when you first get in, you like to think that because of who you are, nobody would do me wrong.
Oh,
but it happens all the fucking time.
Oh, man. It's relentless. The music industry... only the strong survive in this business. You have to really have a very thick skin, and it's so hard. And I'm so glad that I started in the time that I did, pre-social media, pre-down digital, where you just email your music to radio stations.
Right.
Back in the day, we had to actually drive to every single radio station. We had to fill every single manila envelope with our music and our promo package and all these things. But I'm glad.
You had to have a street team, all that. Yeah,
but it really taught me a lot, and it really allowed me to really appreciate, where I got in my career.
Absolutely.
But I would not have been able to do it without my mom and dad. There's just no way. And I wouldn't have wanted to.
Right.
It was just something that became our business, the three of us. And, my siblings, even, to this day, there's a lot of stories they don't know about what we went through on the road. But my dad was that protector. He was the guy that drew that line in the sand and said, "Look, my daughter's here to do a job. She's, we're here professionally. Don't cross this line, and we're good."
Yeah.
But,
No, that's really dope. So let's talk about that, because like you said, you and Selena were the youngest.
Yeah.
Is that what really drew you guys' friendship?
For sure.
Being locked in with the music and knowing that you guys were young women in a male-dominated genre. There's a story. I went to Corpus. I had a radio station interview for my album for the at Z95, and when I was there, I met Selena's dad. Now I was terrified because I had heard so much stuff. You know, you can't help people talk.
I know, yeah.
Everybody talks. So
Yeah.
I had heard so much stuff about how he just wasn't nice. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, but I was watching. It was funny because my manager Lisa was like, "Yo, go in there and talk to him. That's Selena's dad." Again, I've never seen what her dad looked like. I only knew the guy from the movie. Right?
That's not the same person.
So I was like, that's not him.
That's an actor.
So you know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's an actor. So I go, so I see people in his office like, hey, can we take a picture? He's like, no, I don't want any pictures. I'm fine.
Yeah.
He had a little rope to cut off his office. And I remember he was turned around the computer. I stepped over the rope and just stood in his office and was just watching what he was doing on the computer. And he turned his computer chair around and he looked at me and he said, can I help you? And I was like, oh, yeah, man, listen, I just want to know real quick, are you Selena's, I don't know, you know what I'm saying, but are you Selena's dad? And he was like, last time I asked my wife, I was. And I was like, you know what I'm saying? And then like I told him, he was like, wait, he was like, so you here for the museum? And I was telling him about how like I was a musician, I was down there doing a radio interview, and he was like, oh, I think, you know, yeah, okay. I think I heard that or whatever. He's like, my radio's been on. It's on that channel. And he started showing us like stuff on the computer. He started showing us music. We ended up having a really good conversation, and it was a dope vibe. And you know, just to be in that aura of you know, it's the same feeling I get when I'm around you. Just knowing everything that you guys done. You know, it's to be in the aura of somebody like that.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing feeling, especially as an artist. You know, when you guys were friends, you know, like, how was that for you guys? You know what I'm saying? Coming up in the same industry, you know, is that the type of thing that really drew you guys really close just because it's like, man, like, we got to deal with the same stuff?
Yeah, well, we met at Market Square. We were both performing, and we kind of heard each other's names, and that we knew that we were kind of the same age, that we were the same age. So finally we met, you know, and the day that we met, we instantly connected, you know, because we're both 10 years old.
Right.
You know? And yeah, I mean, our fathers were very similar in a lot of things, and in a lot of ways they were not. You know, my father, you know, they're very old school. Again, you know, they believe your word is, you know, gold, and
absolutely
they work hard. And our dads were our protectors.
Right.
You know, but I think what really even drew her to me more as well is because I was living kind of a normal life still. She went on the road very early on and was homeschooling way, you know, so probably by junior high or whatever, she was already like not going into school. She was homeschooling.
Right.
So wasn't around kids her age.
Right,
okay.
right.
And here I was still in school. I was in sports. I would go to dances. I would go to games. You know, all of these things. So she wanted to do those things also.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yes, she loved music, but she was a child, you know? So she would live vicariously through me on experiences I would talk to her about for school and stuff. So every spring break, my parents would allow me to go to Corpus for the week, and we'd just spend a lot of time there. We never talked about music.
Yeah.
Never.
That was like a rule for y'all.
We just never talked about it.
Yeah.
We both loved it.
Yeah.
But we had other things we liked too. You know, she loved her designing. We just talked about typical, by this time when we turned teenagers, we would just go shopping, talk about typical teenage girl stuff. Right. You know, all of those kinds of things.
Yeah.
What we would want to do in the future, all those kinds of stuff. Just being teenage girls. And, you know, she was a really big jokester. Yeah. So she was always playing jokes on me. You know, just always just spending quality time. And anytime she'd come to San Antonio, she'd always want me to be around. You know, so sometimes it was hard, you know, because by this time, in 1989 is when she left the record company that I was going into.
Okay.
She left Manny to go into Capitol, and I was just signing with Manny.
Okay.
So everything was hunky-dory, I think, when I was local, okay? But once I started gaining momentum, I think that's when, in everyone else's eyes, we were becoming competition. And to us, we hated that. Yeah. We could not stand that. But we couldn't control it. It was just the industry doing that to us.
I think that they still do that. It's crazy. They still do that to this day, no matter what genre you're in.
Oh, my gosh, to this day. I mean, and I love everything that she accomplished, and if she were sitting next to me today, she would say the same exact thing I'm telling you.
Right.
There's a lot of other women who have done amazing things in Tejano music.
Right.
She's not the only one.
Right.
So we've done things that she didn't do.
Right.
In different areas.
Right.
You know, whether we hit different areas musically, whether we produce different music that she didn't perform. Like, she always loved my country music.
Right.
Like, she was a big fan of my country stuff. She's like, Shell, you need to go country. You have to go country. And so she liked that about my stuff. And she never did country music.
Right.
She never even played instruments.
Right.
She didn't produce her own music, you know. So we were just different. Yeah. I couldn't dance like that. That's for sure, you know, and that was just her persona all the time. She was always freaking dancing, dude. Like, she was never still, like, never. Like, we would just be somewhere and she would just be doing the latest moves, you know. So, but a beautiful person nonetheless. And, you know, so many fans, and knowing that we grew up together, are always like, how come you don't talk about it? I'm like, because people think, you know, I'm going to capitalize on our friendship, and that's not who I am.
Right.
There's been a lot of things on the series. There's been a lot of things in books that have been portrayed. Don't believe it, guys. It's so Hollywood, I'm telling you right now. Because, you know, I have gotten fans that are like, oh, Shelly's always been jealous of Selena. I'm like, really? Yeah. How are you jealous of your best friend? Yeah. Like, that makes no sense.
Right.
You know, and because people knew that Yolanda came to my camp first, and my father turned her away. People have even gone as far as to say, well, it should have been Shelly, and I wish it would have been Shelly instead of Selena. Oh, yeah.
That's crazy.
You know, that's when the humanity sent. That's such a horrible thing to say about any person.
Yeah, that is crazy.
But we knew each other's friendships. Was it always a good friendship? No. We had our ups and downs as friends, too.
Right.
Because I believed in speaking for myself and standing up for myself.
Right.
And she was just so used to people just controlling every single thing she did. And that was my argument with her.
Yeah.
Dude, you need to learn how to speak up for yourself.
Right.
If you're not comfortable with something, or you care about someone, or you want to do, you know, don't be afraid to say it.
Right,
you know, because your family's going to love you regardless, you know. So, but yeah, you know, our sisterhood, the friendship that we had over the years is something that will always be very special to me.
And I think that's hard too, because once you start gaining fans, and once you start caring a little bit more about what people think or care about, right. When it's like the people that really care about you.
It was more, she cared about what her family felt. You know, her family meant everything to her. You know, and they worked so hard. A lot of people don't know how hard they worked to have what they have, how much sacrifice that they went to. I mean, I remember going into their house, and like, they didn't have furniture, not even nothing. They had nothing. Yeah. You know, so we saw firsthand the sacrifices that they made for her career. Right. But we never talked about music, man. It was just always about.
Does that make it hard for you when they Hollywood stuff up, and then you're like?
That's why I don't watch it, because I lived it. But I hear what people say. You know, Chris Pettis and I, you know, we've since talked about this. But when I formed my band in 1987, my cousin Tony was going to Jefferson High School here, and my father was like, "We need some young guys, so we need to build Shelly's band. We need young guys." So he recruited Chris Pettis. So Chris was in my band first. We taught him to play Tejano music. We taught him how to strum a ranchera. We taught him how to play a cumbia. My cousin Tony. We have VHS tapes of us sitting down teaching him how to play these style of music. And I think people have the misconception that he left me to go there. That's not what happened. He didn't leave. He didn't go to her band till like 3 years after me. 4 years after me. But again, it's Hollywood, and people are like, oh, they stole it from Shelly. And it's like, no, that's not what happened. Yeah. So, you know, things like that. And in his book, there was a part there that talks about how he was introduced to her music through me. And I think in the book he says, when I showed him the music, I had envy in my eyes. And I'm like, okay, how? If I'm proud of my friend and I'm sharing her music with you, how am I going to be envious of someone? That's stupid, dude. So that pissed me off. Yeah. Because my drummer was reading the book, and my drummer told me about it. Yeah. So when I saw him, I've known Chris since, 1987. Right. And I'm like, hey, man, why did you write about me in your book like that when
Right.
you know that that's far from the truth?
Right.
And he was like, oh, well, you know, I had another writer. I said, I don't care. That's your book at the end of the day.
Right.
And you know
You got to say
you know
something.
me.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's why, you know, I don't like for people to, if it's not coming out of my mouth, then
I say that all the time.
then it ain't the truth.
Absolutely.
If I'm not telling you for myself, you know. But
That's
I've
one of
always,
my biggest pet peeves. I hate I heard.
I know.
I heard that.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Did
what
you hear it from me?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't care what you heard. Did you hear it from
Yeah,
me?
did you hear it from me?
I
That's-
say that all the time. I don't care what you
Exactly,
heard.
exactly. But no, I'll always be grateful to God for the relationship and for the times that we had. And I won't always share my memories because those are mine. Those are my memories.
Yeah.
You know, I know the fans want to know every single thing all the time, but as friends, you know, there's just some things you just want to keep to yourself.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I do that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
I think that that one of the most amazing things about you is that your longevity is
Man.
amazing because, I mean, we both know.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
it's
saying?
hard.
It's hard to maintain. That's one of the biggest things and the hardest things to, you know, 5 years in hip hop, we consider that hot.
Yeah.
Like, you're not a legend.
Yeah.
You're just hot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like 10 years.
10 years is pretty good.
That's pretty
10
good.
years is good.
It's pretty good. You know what I mean?
20?
So 20,
Even better.
That's reaching legend status.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I'm saying? Like, so that's a pretty good. That's a pretty cool thing that you found ways to keep recreating.
My father
you know.
told me when I was young, he's like, people are not going to remember you from your one hit. They're going to remember you from the longevity and the stamina that you have in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that always meant something to me. You know, when I studied martial arts,
Right.
I actually had it tattooed on me in Japanese at longevity because
Yeah.
that's what I always strived for.
That's dope.
You know, and then hitting my 40th year was, you know, well now
Congratulations
42
on that, by
years.
the way.
Yeah, 42 years now.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
doing this consistently. And I mean, I got off the road still being on the road every weekend.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I didn't like take a 20-year hiatus and come back. It's like I recorded and performed from the age of 10 till the age of 50.
Right.
Like I never took a break.
You just.
I mean, I kept going.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's why when I retired at 40, everyone was like, why are you retiring? I'm like, well, because it's 40 years for one.
Right.
And I'd given my life. And I mean, think about the amount of discipline. My good friend Smooth Vega, he's the
Yeah.
one that interviewed me one time.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he's like, man, the amount of discipline that it took for you as a child to do this on the weekends and to record and to take care of your voice. And I'm like, I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's true. It's like being disciplined as a kid to go on, you know, on stage and have a career. And,
But
you
it
know, because it
almost
was a
becomes
job.
a-
I was getting paid. You
It
know?
becomes a norm too for you.
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
getting dressed in the morning.
And I grew on stage. I
Yeah.
mean, not in height. I grew this way, but not height. I grew sideways. But musically, you know, and I just always was concerned with just creating my own lane.
Yeah.
You know, again, God creates all of us to be who we are. And none of us are the same.
Right.
So I knew God only made one Shelly Lares, and that's all I wanted to do was just create music and produce music that spoke to me first.
Now I want to touch on that. I'm glad you said that. I almost want you to repeat it, only because I run into so many artists.
Right.
You know, when you start reaching a certain status, you run into these artists that
Yeah.
ask you for advice. How did you do that? Where did you do that?
Right.
Who did you talk to do that? And the thing is, a lot of these guys are really talented and can step out of that comfort zone, but because they're scared
Mm-hmm. Right.
and they think that this is what the people want.
Right.
This is what they want to hear.
Right.
I'm a rap about it. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these rappers, like, and the crazy thing is, I know some of these guys.
Yeah.
I know you.
Yeah.
You're not doing none of that
Yeah.
that you say you're doing in your music.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But
Exactly.
but I'm not gonna ever tell
Yeah.
somebody what to write in their music. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But for me, you're always gonna have to. When you're a musician, you always have to answer to
Right.
that.
Yeah.
When you talk about certain things,
Right.
it comes back tenfold, and you have to answer to that.
Exactly.
And so, like, it's hard for me when an artist comes to me and says, "Hey, Strong, what do you think about this song? Like, what do you?" I think you sound just like Lil Baby.
Right.
Or I think you sound just like, you know what I'm
And
saying?
why do you want to sound like someone else?
And then they turn that
Yeah.
into, well, he's hating.
Yeah, no,
I'm
no.
not hating.
It's-
I'm
But
just
people
saying
people get defensive when they know that it's the truth.
Yeah.
You know, that's when artists get defensive about that. But again, you know, don't ask it. I mean, and I'm all about talk. If you're going to talk the talk, you got to walk the walk.
Absolutely.
That's just, there's no two ways about it.
Right.
You know, but one thing, I never wanted to be anyone else.
Right.
I mean, I knew that there was going to, and am I the best ever? No. But did I ever want to be? No. I'm just going to be the best of me.
Yeah.
And every time I'm going to push the envelope a little bit more for myself.
Well, you're
as a
definitely in my top
musician.
five. You're in my top
Oh, well,
five.
thank you. Thank you. Likewise, brother. So, like, every time, you know how it is.
Yeah.
As when you're writing, the way that you look at music, because
Right.
I visualize music, like I see it like I see those screens right now.
Right.
When I'm writing a song, I see it in color, and I see all of the instruments are in a place like they're supposed to be.
Right.
So every time that I write and produce, especially now for other artists, I always want to push myself to the next limit. Vocally, I would always do the same thing because I
Right.
was very disciplined when it comes to my voice.
Right.
I wouldn't eat certain things, drink certain things. I would do vocal warm-ups. I would take care of myself. So,
I gotta ask you this
know,
as a singer too. Like, is it true that you guys don't like ice?
you know, the funny thing is that they tell you to stay away from ice.
Yeah.
But it never affected me.
Okay.
I don't know why. It just never did. But I got to know my vocals. I even went to an ENT. Like, I looked at my vocal cords. Like, I went that far as to know my voice.
I was in
Yeah.
the studio with someone one time, and I said, "Are you?" I always ask, like,
Yeah.
anybody that's in the studio with me, "Are you thirsty?"
Yeah.
So
They tell you it's not
and
good.
I
Yeah.
said I brought her ice water.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Well, I can't
Yeah.
have no ice."
Sometimes it affects some people. It does.
Yeah.
I mean, but you know, after doing a 2-hour show straight, you know, vocalizing.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you get to know your voice, and it takes so much endurance too. A lot of the new artists don't understand that,
Right.
and that's one of the things I tell them when they first come in to talk to me, just like I'm sure you do. And I'll ask them, "Who are you? Like, who are you?"
Absolutely.
And they're like, "Well, what do you mean?"
I want the best version of
I'm
you.
like,
Of you.
who do you want to be? Like,
Right.
I'm saying musically, who are your inspirations? And how do you want people to hear you and download or whatever, support your music?
And you got to
know,
be careful
and-
with inspirations too, because if Shelly Lares is someone's inspiration, which you're a lot of people's inspiration, and somebody wants to sing because of you, she might sound like you now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, because she's so used to hearing you.
There's been artists that have come to me and they're like, "Can you arrange it like you did this song?" I said, "No, because that's my song."
Yeah.
I'm not going to arrange it like I did my song.
Right.
I have one artist that I'm producing right now that he loves Jay Pettis, right?
Right.
And he wants the Jay Pettis. I said, "That's Jay Pettis' sound.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you his sound.
Right.
I'm going to give you your own sound."
Yeah.
Okay? And sometimes it takes them a little bit to understand, but I think as you go, you start to go, you know, to really see the big picture
Right.
when you start showing them musically. But no, that's one thing I always said. And I think when it really hit me hard was probably in 91. I was performing for the Tejano Music Awards.
Right.
And I was doing a song that was like a rock international song. It wasn't
okay.
a Tejano song, if you consider.
So you've literally touched
it's
all
Tejano, but
genres.
it was rock international. Because again, don't forget, I grew up with Pat Benatar, Hart. You know, those were my heroes. So I love singing rock music too.
Right. So you literally touched
I touch every genre
yeah.
because that's what I love. That's what inspired me.
Right.
Yes, I would do a rock song and then turn around and do a straight up country song.
Right.
Because I love country music. I
Right,
mean,
right.
it just, you know, mariachi too, whatever the style was. So I remember that I was performing for the Tejano Music Awards, and, you know, award shows have never been what drive me. And a lot of the new artists in this genre, especially in Tejano, the award show are what they just strive to win an award. I'm like, okay, guys, there's a lot more to that, okay?
Right.
But in the Tejano music industry, mind you, go back to when I was 10 years old. The Tejano Music Awards, I performed at 10 years old for the first time.
So
Okay?
you had been going to these things.
I grew with them,
Yeah.
okay? So that was my first performance in front of an award show.
Yeah.
And so I got nominated in 1984, was the first time I got nominated.
Okay.
I had been nominated every single year until today,
Wow,
since
that's crazy.
1984.
Yeah. Hey,
But now
congratulations on that.
we were in
That's
91
crazy.
now, but I had not won anything, and I had just been, again, you know, Selena and I, they were putting us together. She was winning all the time. And fans were like, man, Shelly's been out there. She's out there. Why is she not being recognized, you know? And so 91, like...
And that never put a damper in between y'all's relationship?
Oh, no, never for us. But we were in the same category for this song in particular because she had done it was called Tejano Crossover.
Right.
Okay, so if you did a crossover, it could be a dance song, it could be a rock international, it could be anything but your typical ranchera cumbia. Okay,
Right.
so we were both in this category, and I knew that I wasn't going to win in this category, right? So,
Right.
but it was like, you know, after this keeps happening, and I'm like, my guys are looking at me, and I'm watching them from off the side of the stage because it's my category,
Right.
and I'm about to go on.
Right.
So my band's on stage, and I'm watching them, and they hear the nominees, and I feel them like, you know, maybe we're gonna win this year, you know, and I see it on their face, and I'm like, man. And then they don't say my name, and the guys just like, their shoulders just drop, right? And I'm like, man, no, guys. I'm like trying to talk to them off the stage. But I remember when I walked out, I think I said something to the effect of, we're coming.
Yeah.
I said something like that on the mic. But I just remember that moment, and I was the type of person, like, I would get off the stage. I'd freaking go, and it was at the Alamo Dome.
Right, right.
I would get off. I would go into the crowd. I would, like, my father would take me to the other levels during the awards so that we could sign and meet people that were at the very top.
Right, right.
I was the only Tejano artist that ever did that.
Yeah, that's
Ever.
dope.
So I would go to the very top, and people would be like, what are you doing? And I'd be taking pictures, meeting people.
Right.
And that, because Dad was like, you have to show people you appreciate them. But that was the first time that I really realized, you know what, I'm going to create my own
But
lane.
see, people remember that the most. That,
And-
you know, I
yeah.
heard something the other day. I think my father might have told me this. He said that people are not going to remember, you know, there's artists out here that have done plenty of things and people forget. You know,
Yeah.
one of the artists that makes me sad the most is Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne did a lot.
Yeah.
And I feel like that he's almost forgotten.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I feel like they're like, by how you treat people, that's what they remember the most. You have dedicated fans. I've went to the schools that I talked to, and some of the kids that, you know, that we get requested to go. So the kids that have heard of me, you know what I'm saying? But the kids that, they're like, well, who have you done music with? Or who do you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I remember we was at the school recently, and I named a bunch of names. They just gave me this blank face, like, oh, okay. And I was like, oh, and I also was just in the studio with Shelly Lares, and then they went crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like they knew.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because their parents
Yeah.
grew
And
up
their grandparents.
listening
and their
to-
great-grandparents.
Yeah,
I mean,
so,
I'm 4 decades
you know,
of fans. You know, that's a lot.
Nah, that's
It's amazing.
That's
When
crazy.
I've had one.
Your fans are dedicated.
Somebody asked me, have you ever had all 4 of them in one? I said, yes, I actually did. On my last tour, my last year that I toured,
Yeah.
there was a family, and there was 4 generations that that listened to my music.
Absolutely.
And I was like, that's insane. That's just crazy.
Isn't that beautiful to see, though?
Oh, it's amazing, because I take a lot of pride in representing Tejano music. I really do.
Yeah.
And it hurts my heart, especially now, because my industry knows I'm not very happy with them, because they're all about the drama. They're all about, you know, talking about each other, and then yet they say we got to support each other. I'm like, again, if
Yeah.
you're gonna talk the talk, you got to
Right,
walk
right.
the
You
walk.
gotta
You
walk the
don't
walk.
just say it, and you don't just do it on social media.
It just sounds
It's what
good.
you do behind the
Yeah.
scenes too. You have to be there for people off camera.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so it just bothers me that, you know, to me, our music is so beautiful, and I think now people are starting to know the word Tejano
Right.
in the younger generation, because there's a huge generation gap where Tejano just died. You know, a lot of the younger generation didn't know Tejano music.
So what are they?
And
What are they
so-
up on? Like reggaeton?
So I don't know what they really went to. Like Norteño came in and started doing very well. The regional Mexicans started coming in
Right.
and taking over Tejano radio and stuff like that.
Right, right.
But to me, Tejano is just so beautiful. I mean, it's the only genre that you can hear so many influences.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the musicians are so versatile. Like, they can play any genre.
Right.
I know that if I have my Tejano musicians and you turn around and you tell them to play a jazz song, or you tell them to play whatever genre you want them to play,
Right.
they're going to play it right
They're
then and
gonna be
there.
able to do it, yeah.
They're going to do it.
Yeah.
So, but I just don't like when we're not represented in a positive way.
Right.
You know, that just really bothers me. So I just do my best to influence and plant the seed in the artists that reach out to me and the artists that I produce.
Right.
You know, and to spread that, you know, the sky's the limit, y'all.
Right.
Don't let anybody's noise, you know, interfere what you're doing.
And you could tell it's reciprocated, because who you are as a person reflects on who you. The kids that I talk to at your studio,
Yeah.
they were listening.
Right.
Most kids their age is not trying to hear nobody. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So the fact that they wanted to listen, the fact that they were, wanting to learn. They
Right.
wanted to hear everything we had to say.
Yeah.
And that's very hard to captivate with most kids today.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And the good thing is we can give them the tools, right? But how they utilize them is up to them.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, you can give them everything they need to know, but if they're not going to implement it, that's what makes it really hard.
Yeah.
And that's why after my 40th year, well, prior to my 40th year, even when I was a young teenager, I was already trying to think of what am I going to do outside of music. I knew I wanted to challenge myself outside of music. So I kept trying to find things outside. I studied fitness and nutrition.
Yeah.
I studied physical therapy aid. All these things, and I was still trying to find something that I could grab onto outside of music.
Right.
And then I really realized, I'm like, helping people. That's like my main gift.
Right.
That's the main gift God gave me, is my ability that I want to help people and that I can.
Right.
So that's when I started like gearing, and probably like in 2015, I started thinking, I want to be a nurse. I want to go into hospice nursing. I want to help people in that way. Because my father had suffered a stroke in '99. My mom and I had been his caregiver for a long time. So, I knew caring for someone physically was something that really spoke to me too.
Right.
So I talked to my dad in 2015, and I'm like, Dad, I know what I want to do. I know what I want to do after I retire. And he's like, what? And I was like, I want to go into nursing. I want to be a hospice nurse.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, that's what you want to do, then go for that.
Yeah.
So my father passed in 2016. And then after that, I'm like, let me make sure I want to do this, because I don't know, I could do it for my family, but
Right.
what about for someone outside my family? So I walked into this agency, and I inquired about being a caregiver. And I remember I sat down with the owner. She was a former nurse, and I tell her, I can only do this part-time. I said, because I have a business.
Right.
And she's like, okay, like how many times? I said, like maybe twice a week, but maybe like a Tuesday, Wednesday.
Right.
That's it. She's like, okay, fine. So she's like, all right, well, we'll give you a call. So like I had just driven out of the parking lot. She calls me, and she's like, Shelly, do you know you're on Wikipedia? I'm like, yeah. And that's when she realized, she's like, why do you want to go from being an artist and doing this?
I was going to ask you that,
she's
because
like,
that'd be super hard for you.
she's like, financially, I'm sure you may. I said, it's not about the money. I'm fine over here. I'm
Yeah.
doing this for other reasons. Okay. And so she's like, okay. So I started doing caregiving for her company. And I started immediately doing, music ministry, music therapy for my patients. And I got
Right.
paired with hospice patients right out of the gate. And that's when I was like, I love this.
That was all
I
God.
got to do this. I got to do this.
Absolutely.
But then 2017, 2018, 2019, I got so busy. Like I was on the road. I had to like even narrow it down more on time, and I just, couldn't do
Right.
it anymore. And then, 2020 hit, COVID, and that's what just made me really solidify my decision.
Right.
That when my 40th year came, which would be in 2021, I was gonna turn 50.
Right.
That's it. I'm getting off the road. I'm gonna go into nursing.
Right.
And so that's what I made my announcement in
Yeah.
2021. I'm like, y'all, end of 2022, that's gonna be it for me, 40 years.
Yeah.
And fans were like, why? And when I told them why, they're like, oh, okay. It's like they were fine with it when
Yeah,
they found
yeah,
out
yeah.
why. But I was like,
They knew it was a part of you, though.
But-
That's a part of you helping
but I
people.
just felt like I just wasn't being challenged anymore.
Yeah.
I felt like I was doing the same thing I had done forever.
So it stopped being
in
fun
front
for
of
you?
in the same venues.
Right.
And I, not that I didn't miss the fans, I still do, but I just wanted to do something as an entrepreneur. I was ready to do other things. I was ready to challenge myself in going to nursing school.
Right.
And having that career for myself. But like we said the other night, God is really the one that's driving this bus of this
Yeah.
life of ours.
Yeah. Big facts.
And, 22, I had started Shell Shock Records 3, my record label, in 2012 for myself.
Right.
With the plans of further on signing artists. That wasn't in the plans during the retirement.
Right.
I'd always wanted a recording studio. My parents always wanted to have me to have a recording studio.
Which your recording studio is fire.
And thank you.
I love that studio. That studio is crazy.
And so my fiance, Mia, she is going into real estate, and she was looking for places for me.
Right.
And she's like, Beba, you have to have your recording studio. I'm like, I can't. I'm going to go to nursing school. I'm not going to have time for nothing, man. This is going to take all my time. So in 22, my final year, she shows me, and I knew I wanted an old home or an old church. And I wanted a lot of property, and I wanted it gated. She brings me this. She's like, look at this. It's an old home. It was built in 1912. It has a lot of property. This is your studio. And I'm like, no, I'm not. She's like, let's go see it. She's like, and if it has a big yard, you can have a stage in the back. You can teach artist development. I was like, no. We get to the freaking property, y'all, and there's a stage in the back of this property. And I'm like, oh, okay, God. All right. I see how you're working.
Yeah.
So I signed this lease, and I paid for this building empty for a year. Because I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. Then the beginning of my year of retirement, my cousin calls me, who owns Harmony Hospice Care. At the time, it was a different company, but she owns Harmony Hospice Care. She's like, I want you to head the music ministry, music therapy for my company.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, man, I swear to you, dude, I cried. Like, if we hung up and I started crying and I dropped to my knees and I prayed to God, and I'm like, God, if I'm deterring from where I think you're trying to take me, please show me something.
Right.
But then I'm like, okay, he showed me my studio. He's giving me hospice like I wanted, right? He just is telling me, this is what I want you to do. So
it drew you back to it.
It drew me back in. And then I met my artist, El Gallo Dez, who I signed to my record label the year prior.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Before we get into that, you have experience being signed to a major label, but you've also experienced the independent.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And one thing that I admire about you the most, that you learn the tactics of the streaming.
Oh, yeah.
You learn that a lot of people don't understand. There's a lot of people that's leaving money on the table when it comes to their music.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I know guys that are making music, that are recording, and they've never gotten a TuneCore check or an Apple Music check. Like, I get those checks monthly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But they don't even have. They ask me, "Oh, you can get a check from that, dog? What do you think uploading your music to a streaming platform is doing?"
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? But they don't even have the knowledge of, and they should know it more, because these are millennials that I'm talking about.
Right.
These are
You would
these
think
are
they
kids.
do.
These are 20-year-old kids. So, but you've mastered on where to get your money.
Yeah.
One thing about you, you don't miss a dollar.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
We learned the hard way on that.
So with, like, independently, you've been independent. You got Shell Shock Records now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And I like to tell myself that I'm not an independent label. I'm a label.
Yeah, a label.
Nonetheless, I'm
Yeah.
a record label. But yeah, so
Do you like it more like this?
I love it. I actually love being the producer record label more than I do the artist.
Right.
I just feel like I thrive more on this side, and I just love artist development. I love it. I love teaching them what they don't know.
Right.
And that's a huge one. And again, the initial conversation always should happen when you're producing an artist, in my opinion.
Right.
And in my opinion only. Now, my fellow producers may not agree with me. They're about, okay, pay me, here's your song,
Right.
peace out. And I'm about not only what happens in my studio, but what happens outside. How are they going to take, it's like a football.
Right.
I'm the quarterback. I'm passing you the ball. Are you going to take it? Are you going to make a touchdown?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a team.
Taking a risk on you.
It's a team.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hand it off to you, but I care about where you're going with
Right,
it.
right.
Okay? Because one, for their sake, and two, because my name is attached to it.
Right.
Okay? So I like to sit down in that initial conversation when I ask an artist, who are you? And what do you want out of this music industry?
Right.
Do you want to just do it as a hobby? Do you just want to do it because you want to be on social media and look good? And is that what you want? And if you do, that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you want to make it and do it as a profession and make money from it, well, this is what you have to do.
Right.
Okay? And I mean, now teaching at UTSA, being the very first artist in residence, I ask my students, do we have any aspiring producers, artists? They raise their hand. I'm like, okay, well, who has their music up on digital platforms? I do. Okay, cool. So how did you set it up? And are you also a registered writer?
Right.
Well, what is that? That's outside of digital. That means that if someone picks up your song and plays it on FM, AM, online radio, are you registered with BMI ASCAP? Are you no, I'm not. I'm like, oh my God, okay. So, but I understand what it's like to be green, and then you have these so-called producers that are taking everything from them because they don't know.
Not even really listening to what they putting down. They just like, oh, it sounds good.
Yeah.
Because they paid for the session.
But money-wise, I'm saying it could be the artist co-writing the song with them. But the producer's not saying, okay, well, we're going to split it. Let's talk about the split.
Yeah.
If they don't if the artist isn't bringing up, okay, how are we going to split this?
Right.
Then they know that artist doesn't know. That artist doesn't know. And I'm going to take it.
Actually, that's how and it sucks that in our industry, you tend to have to be taken advantage of before you learn because there's nobody really to teach you.
Exactly.
My first manager, he took everything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's an album that I never talk about. People find it on YouTube. You can't find it on any streaming platforms. It's called Legacy, but people still see it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's still on Snapchat too. If you go to Snapchat, you can people put my song in there. But every time that album is played, I do not get paid. That guy gets paid in California.
Right.
Every time.
Right.
He went and got married with the money. He did a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I didn't understand it until Lisa corrected that.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that's the thing though. Everything has to be read. Everything has to be.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You have
That's
to pay
when I
close
really
attention.
learned about publishing too.
Yeah.
About publishing, about mechanical royalties. Mechanical royalties really are the units or how many record sales you have.
Right.
And back in the day, we had actual hard copy records.
I missed that.
And it's going to come back.
Like CDs
it's
and
coming
shit.
back. It's coming back. I mean, I know vinyl is still $1 billion industry. So we had hard copy, which means if you make so many plastic cups, you know how many there are. Right? So you know how many you've sold, how many you've made. But in the digital world,
it's hard to tell. We talked about that.
You can't tell.
We talked about that, yeah.
So it's tough.
It's hard to calculate.
But that's why I love hard copy stuff. That's why with my artist El Gallo Des, we still did the CD because there's still a lot of Tejano fans out there that love hard copy CDs.
Right.
And we also did the vinyl, and of course he's on all streaming platforms as well. So I covered all of the bases with him. But this way, I know what's being sold, and we profit way more with hard copy than we do with digital.
Right.
For sure. For sure.
No, that's dope. And I'm glad that you're doing what you're doing as far as, like you said, artist development, like going to your studio, being able to talk to the kids that you were with. That was really dope to be able to just not only to give them advice, but also, take in what you were telling them and how much they look to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? These guys really want to make great music off the strength of how much passion you have for it.
Right.
And that's building passion within them because most people, let's be honest, that start music, they don't really know where their passion comes from. They don't know what it is. Like you found out, you knew you loved to sing, but you also found out that one of your biggest passion was in producing and writing. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So
which I love. I mean, and now I'm breaking into film. This has been a big dream of mine too, is to be able to compose for film and to get my artists into film, whether it's acting, whether it's doing music in the film.
Right.
Just so many amazing opportunities have come from making the decision to go ahead and stay in Shell Shock and open up my recording studio and whatnot. Producing all genres, not just Tejano. I barely doing Tejano right now.
I'm coming there to record. That Shell Shock sign is fire.
Oh, thank you.
I got to record a song in there.
Well, everybody,
that's
the
crazy.
whole thing of the studio is arrive to a vibe, leave inspired.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I want you to feel when you get there. You like the vibe. It's a positive, creative space.
And that's what I was going to say.
Because I don't allow any kind of negative energy into my room. I don't let it into my life, so I'm sure not going to let it into my creative space. So this is why I really like to sit and talk with an artist, because I can tell a lot about them when I'm speaking to them, And
you can feel that from the moment you step into your studio.
and I want to. And there's been some that they're like, I don't know if I can. I'm like, you can. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, that's when I become like the cheerleader, and I'm like, man, let's do this. Let's we weren't created to be mediocre.
Yeah.
So, we always have to strive to do better for ourselves and to be better for ourselves, for everyone around us, for our culture, for humanity, period.
Right.
So
we talked about that, I think last episode, where I was saying that, like, they say words like chauvinistic. They say words like narcissist. They,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? People tell you to be humble, right?
Right.
You start reaching success. You start hitting a level of success. They say you need to be humble. But people tell you that a lot of times because they don't want to hear about your greatness because they may not be doing anything in their lives that's significant enough.
That's
you know
usually,
what I'm saying?
that's
So they
usually,
want you to be
it comes from people who are really not moving.
right.
And again, you get comfortable, then you're not growing. You know,
Right.
that's what I've always said. When you're uncomfortable, that means you're in your growth phase.
Right.
And it's okay to feel that way. It's okay to not know everything you're going into. I say this a lot. I like to surround myself in a room with people who know more than I do. Okay, that's what I like to do. I like to be, and coming from LA, I just came from LA on Friday. I just produced a song for a movie called Say a Little Prayer. That my song is the opening song of the movie.
That's dope.
So we did the movie premiere, and I got to actually hear myself on the big screen like for the first time ever, and which is another journey for me.
Right.
But just sitting there and I'm around this industry that I'm getting into.
Right.
I don't know anything really much about it, but
Right.
I'm there and I'm asking questions. I'm meeting people. I'm like networking, and just finding ways to continue to grow as a producer and as a label.
Right.
So, but I just like to inspire people. I really do, and that's why I'm so grateful again to UTSA for taking such a chance on me, to be the very first artist in residence. And everyone asked me, what do you do there? Well, I teach everything about the music industry.
That's dope.
It's basically it. I can be in an audio tech class teaching audio. I can be in another class where we're doing ensembles, or I pretty much float around in the School of Music there. But I know that they're working and they signed me for a second year, but they're actually working to build me a permanent spot for me.
That's
so
dope. That's dope.
I'm just excited because I'm meeting so many.
Big salute to you for that.
There's so many talented musicians at UTSA, like amazing ones. I just had a whole ensemble in my studio the other day, and just talking to them about, don't stay in the box, man.
Right.
You're a cello player. Incorporate it in some other genre, in somewhere else. Just don't put any limitations on yourself.
Right.
Because as society, we believe everything we see on social media. We believe the negativity, and we start believing, and it's all in your mindset. It's all in your mindset. We can accomplish anything we put our mind to.
Right.
Really, we can.
Right, absolutely. Well, hey, Shelly, I definitely appreciate you coming. I want to talk to you about the challenges of. It's probably easier now that you're kind of in a space right now that you get to be able to do where you want to do now. You know what I'm saying? Because for so long you were touring.
Yeah.
You're in a space right now where you're retired, but not really. You know what I'm saying?
I'm retired from the road.
You
I'm
got
retired
like
from
one
the
foot,
road.
but you, like you said, you're engaged.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Has that always been a challenge for you?
Relationships? Oh,
like
God, yeah.
Being a musician, you know what I'm saying?
For sure.
And then on top of that, you know what I'm saying? Like,
For sure.
yeah.
Well, early on, I never really had the opportunity because I was basically married to my career, and then, once I started dating, and being a lot more open with my fans on my social media, and it wasn't like a coming out moment for me that I had.
Right.
And happy Pride, and by the way, everybody. So.
Did they know? Was it always like that? Did they know, or did you?
I mean, maybe they did, but I remember in the 90s, it was really hard. Because in the 90s...
It wasn't like it is now.
Oh, God.
It was like almost everybody
No. I had to be extremely quiet about my sexuality. My friends would invite me out to the bars, and I would be deathly afraid of someone recognizing me. It was just not a good time.
Right.
But then again, I wasn't really dating any women that were very good to date.
Right.
As it is. I just had a very poor choice of women for a long time. I will say that about myself.
I think everybody does when you're starting. Shit.
Well, because I'm a giver, so I like to give, but it's very hard for you to find someone who reciprocate that. And I think, upbringings are very important and our faith. I think if you're with someone with both those things, or one of those things at least. It's very helpful. But so I was with some that were just because of who I was, and wanting to be around me in those situations when we're like at fanfare, and when we're in front of people, and and once you start to realize that, but
trying to claim they fame too. Like,
exactly. And it wasn't until honestly like recently, like 6 or 7 years ago, that I had to make a really hard decision. I had to really put myself first. And I was like, okay, Shell, you got to show yourself self-love, And the minute that I did that, and because I left my previous relationship and I left a stepdaughter behind, that was the hard part. That was the hardest part, because she was the reason I was there. But for me to have to walk away from this child was really difficult.
Right.
But it was something I had to do.
Yeah.
First of all, she's not my child.
Right.
And never were they going to allow me to be that person still in her life. But I had to be like, look, you got to love yourself first enough, because I was already suffocating. I was miserable. If I look at photos on Facebook memories, and I see myself in those years, you can see it in my face.
Right.
You just see that I'm like not in a good spot, right? So after that is when Mia came into my life, who's my fiance now, who is like the most beautiful person. Like, she's so kind and so loving and so giving and so considerate.
Shout out to Mia.
But she's also very independent and driven. So we're a couple,
right,
but we don't hold each other down individually.
Right.
We're like lifting. We're always elevating each other. Like, let's do this, baby. You do this. We do this.
Like
we
real
work
partners.
together as real partners. Yeah. And it took forever for me to find someone like that. But
usually does.
I mean, I'm so grateful.
It usually does.
And she even tells me, she's like, I'm glad, because we met in 2013 or wait, somewhere. And the first time we met, I think, was then in passing, because she used to work at a club called Graham Central Station.
Oh, I remember that. It was behind.
She worked there.
Behind the gas station.
Yeah, remember that?
Fredericksburg.
Yeah, Fredericksburg had like all those clubs. Okay.
Grand Central Station. Boy.
Everybody's laughing because I brought back memories. Yeah,
boy.
Sorry, somebody just went back. I triggered somebody. But yeah, she worked there, and her coworker was a fan of mine and wanted to go meet me. So they went and met, and she asked me if I remember. I didn't remember. Honestly, I didn't remember. But she's like, no, I'm glad we didn't get together then, because you wouldn't want to meet that Mia, because she liked to go out and have fun all the time, and I was total opposite. Like, I've always been like a homebody. Like, never been out to go out. I like to go out and have a good time every now and then, but for the most part, I just enjoy being home when I can.
I'll probably learn that more this year than anything. You got to be selfish sometime to be selfish.
Yeah.
Because if you don't really truly know who you are and love yourself, how are you going to do that for somebody else?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's something that, like.
And I know that my father had a big hand in Mia coming into my life up there. I know he did, because she is the woman that my father the type of woman my father always wanted for me. Right. And she does things. And I think of my dad, because like little things, like she'll freaking fix whatever. She hooks the trailer up. She's like, she can be like real beautiful, all dressed. And then other times, like she's under the, she's done so many
handy
things.
Woman.
Very handy. And, she's very intelligent. She's also very street smart. She's from the South Side, so she likes to say that she knows a lot about the streets. But
she likes to say it. She likes to say that.
And she does. She really does. She's the best of all worlds. And I'm just so grateful that I have someone in my life that,
help push you forward. Yeah.
Now, does she make me happy? No. I'm happy by myself. Right. She makes me happier with her in my life. Right. But if Mia was not in my life, I'd still be good, and she would still be good. Right. But we're not that so dependent on each other. You know, we just want each other to achieve each other's goals, and then we have our couple goals, obviously. And getting married, we've been putting it on the back burner. We've only been engaged a year, maybe a year, a year or two. But we just are so busy. So, but we're happy, and I'm very blessed. And she's so good to my mom. Yeah. and my mom loves her like a daughter, and that's all that matters to me.
That's what's up, man.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to Mia. Mia,
Yes,
right?
Mia,
Shout out to Mia. So you know what I'm saying, before we close with Shelly, I wanna ask you this, like, and it's great to ask you this because you've accomplished so much within your music. You've accomplished so much within your career. So I don't get a chance to ask any artist this, or I haven't yet, that's retired.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna stop saying that
Okay.
because I really feel like you're
That's
retired.
okay.
Because we're gonna get in the studio. But
Okay.
listen, I wanted to ask, like, do you feel like, you know, to some artists, a Grammy is that thing, or to some artists, like
Yeah.
you say, you've been going to award shows since you was
Yeah.
a little girl. So,
Right.
is there anything that you feel in your career, and I'm pretty sure you thought about this before you walked away, is there anything that you feel that you hadn't achieved that you wanted to? Or do you feel complete as an artist? Because it's very hard to feel complete as an artist. I know you can imagine.
Honestly, as an artist, I feel complete.
Complete.
I do. I
That's
really
great.
do.
That's-
I felt when I retired that I didn't have anything left undone, because, you know, even the Grammy nominations, that meant a lot to me. Now the goal as a producer is to win one with my artist,
Mm-hmm.
you know, of course, or be nominated with my artist as a producer now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well, I still was. I was a producer with my own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, the 3 Grammy nominations mean a lot to me, especially the first one, because we made the best Mexican American category. And,
That's fire.
and we did that with Las Tres Divas, which was Elida and Stephanie Montiel and myself. And we never, in our wildest dreams, would have thought we would have made the Mexican American category alongside Mana, Luis Miguel. I mean, we were in that category with
Right.
those artists who are international artists.
Right.
And then getting my my third one with my label, Shell Shock Records,
Right.
for my De Mi Corazón album.
Hey.
So I really don't feel like there's anything I didn't do as an artist. I really don't. Now, there's a lot of things that, you know, if I were to come back out of retirement, there's other artists I probably would collaborate with,
Right,
or,
right.
you know, maybe some other areas I'd like to perform, but I mean, I've traveled on the other side of the world: Guam, Japan, Korea, you know,
Right.
Alaska. I mean, Mexico. So I mean, we've been to a lot of places, seen
Right.
it, and all over the United States. So
I think that's dope, though, because what you've achieved is what every artist would love to achieve, complete.
Yeah.
You know, regardless of
And
anything else,
musically,
to feel complete.
Musically, I did everything I wanted to do. Musically, right? I touched on the genres that all meant something to me.
Right.
And I collaborated. You know, my nickname in the industry is Queen of Collabs.
Right.
Because I have over 30 collaborations throughout my career. And I hold the record in the Tejano industry because
Yeah.
nobody has 30 collaborations. But I always believed
That's what's
in working together to help each other and to also just grow as artists together. You know, some of them were brand new artists. Some of them were artists nobody knew.
Right.
But I didn't turn them down. I'm like, you know, let's do this. Or artists that were way achieved. You know, Little Joe was my first collaboration, and Little Joe is an icon in
Right.
Tejano music. He's a legend.
Right.
So for him to ask me on my very first collaboration to be on his album,
Right.
you know, and then I recorded, you know, with Vince Gill, one of the biggest country artists of all time, and you know, the list goes on with some of the amazing artists that I've collaborated with. So, no, I feel,
You feel
my
complete.
retirement.
Yeah.
I had no regrets, no hesitations. I knew that was my time
Yeah.
to get off the road and be, you know, to concentrate on this part of my life now.
And I see you, like we talked about your mentoring. So is there any advice that you would give? What advice would you give any artist, young artist, any artist that's still trying to find that completeness? What would you tell them?
Well, first of all, I would say, you know, all the honor and glory to God. Anything you do, you know, you should lead with God. God opens the doors for you. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, who are you as an artist? Who are you? Who's your heart and soul? What is your heart and soul about?
Right.
What speaks, you know, when you're an element of music, because music is poetry. Music is, to me, the most vulnerable way that a musician artist can express themselves. You know, we can talk, we can have a conversation with y'all and say how we feel, but when we do it through music, it's like magnified.
It hits different.
It's a different vibe. It's a totally different area that it comes from. So I would say, who are you? What speaks to you? How do you want to connect with another person, another human being? And why are you even wanting to come into the music industry? Is it all about the money?
Right.
Or is it all about those connections that you make with another human being through your music?
And don't be afraid to be different.
I've had people tell me, man, my grandmother listened to you and she was the matriarch of our family. So anytime we hear you, we think of our grandma. I mean, those are, or I was going through a divorce and your song got me through it. Or we got married and we danced to your song. I mean, those are moments when you're in the studio, you're creating these things, you don't realize that.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Your music can become, we all feel it. When we're feeling an emotion, when our feelings, we all go to a song for something.
Right.
It's tells the story of how we are in that moment. And so I would tell them, just please think about all that.
Right.
And are you ready to be in this music industry?
Yeah. And know what comes with it.
Knows what comes with it. Sacrifice, because when you become an artist, your life is not the same anymore. I'm going to tell you again.
It's not even your life.
When you become an artist, your life is not the same anymore. Because that, and I ask, how's your personal life? That's another question I ask artists. How is your personal life? How's your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend? Because when they start seeing people looking at your loved one in a certain way, stuff's gonna happen.
Yeah, I lost all my girlfriends. So.
And it doesn't mean that you're gonna go home. I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't artists out there who go and sleep around, because I'm sure they do. But us, it was our business, you know? Like, this is how we did it. We were actually one of the most boring bands.
Now they say outside.
Like,
you always
we would just
outside.
look forward to going to Whataburger after the show. We're like, is there a restaurant we can go eat after the show? And we would just go to the room, and that's it, you know? And of course, that was my rule. My guys could not take women back to the rooms, because if not, they were fired. Yeah. Same thing. So, you know.
And as an artist, people, your fans and the supporters, they see you as, they don't see you every day.
Yeah.
So they see you as, so when, you know, there's been situations where I've had a girl and they walk in, they be like, we turned up last night. How strong?
Right. Yeah. And being away. I mean, I miss so many birthdays, you know, of my family. I wasn't there for most of my nieces and nephews when they were born, or when they had, you know, confirmations or whatever they did.
And that's part of the sacrifice.
That's part of the sacrifice. I was never here during Thanksgiving. I was never here during Christmas. I was never here during New Year's Eve. I was always on the road. We would eat at Luby's. We would, for Thanksgiving, we would go to Luby's. We would, or promoters would invite us to their house and they cooked. We were never home. So you got to be, I mean, I was gone 6 days every week.
But the ones that love you understand your sacrifice.
Right.
And the ones that know what you do and really respect and want to see you win,
and
they
it's
will
not going
understand
to
your
happen
sacrifices.
right away. And do you really want it to? I know I wouldn't have wanted it to happen fast, because
I'd have spent all
then
that
what?
money.
I mean, really, what is that going to teach you? My father used to tell me, we are never going to have any investors. We are never going to have anybody coming in to help us build your legacy, because you're always going to wind up working for someone else, and it's not going to be yours. And at the end of the day, you want to feel proud of what you worked for.
Right.
You want to be proud of the work that you put in.
Right.
The blood, sweat, the tears. Trust me, y'all, it's going to mean so much more when you get to be around my age, and later on in your career, you're going to be like, oh, I get it.
But you know, one thing that I love about you is that you do implement God in everything that you do first.
Always, and I always will.
And I love that.
I always will.
And I heard the record in the studio.
I'm free? Yeah.
Man, crazy, dope. But no, so yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is Shelly Lares. Make sure y'all look up her music. Make sure y'all tap in.
Thank y'all, guys.
You know what I'm saying? This has been another great episode of Trill Talk. Now, before we get out of here, there's some things that I want to say. So, first, in hip-hop news, recently, Anthony Edwards, and you guys, I know that we usually talk about these things, but I wanted to get Shelly everything that she does. I know we usually talk about these things, so you guys can comment in my DM, or you can comment on the page about these subjects that I'm about to bring up. We won't talk about them today, but you will be able to comment, and I'll comment back. Anthony Edwards just dissed Cameron. Cameron got on his show, and he did a freestyle against Anthony Edwards. I guess Anthony Edwards said, "Forget Cameron," or something happened.
Oh,
so y'all,
damn.
so y'all,
can't take him
and
nowhere.
if y'all don't know who Cameron is, he was on Dipset. You know what I'm saying? So make sure y'all tap in on that. What else is going on?
Hombre.
We didn't get a chance to touch on the relationships. We did talk to a little bit with Shelly, but I know that there were some subjects that I'm gonna bring up for the next podcast on relationships. That's like our biggest subject right now. You know what I'm saying? So
everyone wants
we
to
will
know
talk about
relationships.
I think last time we talked about double standards, and we talked about a lot of different things.
Oh yeah, lots of those.
And also, you know what I'm saying, I have a video dropping tomorrow at 7:30. It's the greatest, you know what I mean? Just shot the video for it. The video will be released tomorrow. I know that I said it was going to be released on Sunday, but it's cool. We about to release it tomorrow. It's about to be crazy, you know what I'm saying? So y'all make sure y'all tap in. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we really appreciate someone like Shelly Lares, the legend herself, coming to the show today, you know what I'm saying? This has been another great episode of Trill Talk No Cap, where all we do is talk Trill, and the only capping that we do is the ones we wear on our heads.
That's right.
We appreciate y'all, man. We love y'all.
Thank
right
you,
now.
guys.
Pull up in Havana
God
right now.
bless. Yeah.
Pull up in Havana right now.
Yes,
We about to
it's
have
great.
margarita night.
Come to Havana.
$4 margaritas. Let's go. And tacos.
Ooh.
Let's go. And
Who said
tacos.
tacos?
Yeah. Let's get it.